Where should I put you? There you go. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, it's Monday. I love Mondays. How are you doing? How's everyone doing? How are you, Rachel? How are you, Carly? I'm going to wait until some people jump on Facebook. Good morning, Lou. How are you? That rhymes. Good morning, Lou. How are you? How are you doing? So, what I was going to say was, I've had a few messages from people saying that they haven't got that involved and kind of apologising. And I just really want you to know, like, this group patronage, etc., is for you, okay? It's hopefully the resources are going to grow and you can dip in and out of this as you want. This is here for you as and when you need it. So over the weeks, months, etc., the resources I'll add more resources in, etc. And I'm going to put in like old workbooks, so like the 21-day workbooks and stuff like that, the how to get over your ex workbooks, etc. But this is just hopefully going to become a resource bank, but also one that you can lean on each other, so you can ask each other questions, etc. So don't feel like if you don't do it straight away, or if you miss a week or anything like that, this is for you, is what I'm saying. So, oi, Tate. Good morning. I'm so glad you're getting more and more confident every minute. So, this week is release. Now, a lot of us carry a lot of pain. We all do. Our brain is so imprinted. We remember everything and we think that we don't, but it is stored somewhere in our brain, okay? It might not be accessible. It might be before we could even talk, so we can't actually access the memory, because language helps us to access the memories. But we have got so much stuff that's happened to us in our lives. We can't have got to 30, 40, 50 without having had stuff happen to us. So even 10, things have happened. So today, what I want you to think about, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, but what I want you to think about is something that's stopping you move from where you are to where you want to be. So before you shut your eyes, if you can write it down in the comments, that would be really, really cool. So things that are stopping us from moving on. I think the number one that I see a lot is the fear of what other people will think. The fear of believing that if we do something that we're going to be rejected by our group, or that we're going to lose friends, or we're going to lose colleagues, our job, etc. So if you have a think about what it is, what am I afraid of? What is stopping me from really going big on this thing that I love, or really expressing who I am, or moving to the next stage? So I'm going to wait for you. So I'm not going to talk until somebody's written something down. We'll just have a really awkward British silence. That's awkward, wasn't it? I'm going to wait for you. I'm still waiting, girls. Be typing. Someone be typing. Or I'll do the awkward face again. Tumbleweed. I'm really hoping someone's typing something. Money, fear of failure. Thank God. So, fear of failure. So what does that mean, Claire? What's underneath the fear of failure? So if you're afraid of failing, what you're afraid of essentially is making a mistake, because there's not really any such thing as failure. The only failure is when you completely stop doing something that you really love. That's true failure, is not pursuing your dream, yeah? But we perceive failure to be mistakes, yeah, where the society's taught us to get everything right. So in school, we get a tick when we get things right. And, oh, yeah, you got that right. And put your hand up. Yeah, that's right. Right. And we then get conditioned out of if you make a mistake, no, you're wrong. And then you might be shamed in front of the class, or you might be like laughed at by your peers. That's not right, you know? So we get so conditioned in getting it right that we're afraid to make mistakes. So don't mistake making mistakes with failure, okay? Because you can't fail in the pursuit of your dreams, all right? There is no such thing as failure as long as you promise me that you're never going to stop if it's your true dream, yeah? So the fear of failure essentially is the fear of getting things wrong, okay? And by getting things wrong, it means learning lessons. So getting things wrong isn't really getting things wrong. Getting things wrong is trying something and knowing it didn't work. The difficult thing is when we try something, we know it didn't work, but we carry on doing that thing, okay? That's the definition of crazy, apparently. Does that make sense? So actually, underneath that fear of failure is a concern that we don't want to get things right. So this week, Claire, for you, what you really want to be concentrating on is a memory where you were made to feel maybe humiliated by a teacher, maybe something happened. And this is where I do want you to close your eyes. I want you to go back to that memory as the earliest version that you can remember. It might have happened in your 20s, it might have happened like recently, but if you can go back even further and even further and even further, and then do your homework from that place of looking at that situation as with fresh eyes, with kind eyes, that I was a child when that happened, and that teacher absolutely humiliated me. I remember once, my sister's dyspraxic, so she was never as good at drawing as me, and I don't mean that like, you know, it was really made obvious to her that she was not as good as, and everything was always like, oh yeah, it's not very good at handwriting, and she was always made to feel really bad about that. And one teacher tore up her work, and she basically never ever drew again. Like, she started drawing as an adult again, and she actually draws really lovely pictures of hands now. But you have to not stop doing these things. But there is that thing that happens, you know, naturally, if it becomes a risk. So what was going on there was, if we went back to that situation, an adult tearing up, I think she was 6, a 6-year-old's work, that's not cool. That's nothing to do with my sister's dyspraxia. That's to do with some shitty teacher, yeah? And if we were to go back to that situation and I was to write a letter to my sister, I'm so sorry that teacher spoke to you like that. That was absolutely not anything to do with you. You were amazing. You drew a picture that you enjoyed doing. That is worthwhile, yeah? And you write your letter from a place of absolute kindness for that child and for the memory, for yourself in that space. And by doing that, we allow ourselves to self-soothe. Now, I've been spending some time with Sarah this weekend. We've been doing a little bit of hypnosis, and she said a really cool thing. So there's a Paul McKenna book about how to get rid of memories that don't serve us anymore. So our headspace is taken up, and why do we need to get rid of these memories? Because then we repeat them. So we've talked about this before with the neural pathways and the cycles, etc. But when we are used to a behaviour pattern that we already know, because our brain doesn't want us to be happier, it wants to do the laziest, easiest thing. It will resend information down an old pattern that it knows. So if you have a habit for perfectionism, or a habit for worrying about what people think of you, or a habit of putting other people's opinions before, what do I really want to pursue? What do I fancy? Even if I fuck it up 100 times, I just really fancy doing that because I just want to. But your brain would rather you didn't do that new thing and tell you, no, you can't do that new thing. Just stick to what you know. And it would rather you felt like a failure. It would rather you felt like you are not good enough. It would rather you compare yourself to other people than actually try and pursue something and potentially get it wrong. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to go up and read a little bit higher up. I think it's what other people think, even though I always say I don't care what people think, all of the above. I struggle with what others think of me. I'm worried it will go wrong and I'll end up in a worse situation. Not so much fear, but I'm an overthinker. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Chumbawamba as a building block and next step. Okay, so again, this fear of what other people think. So how far back can we go? How can we release that as much as possible? We're human, okay? If we never worried about what other people think, we'd actually be classed as a sociopath, all right? So I don't want you to worry that there's anything wrong with you worrying about what other people think, because we are hardwired to need to be part of a group. But what you want to do is belong in your group, not fit into your group. So we're not trying to put yourself in a box anymore. You want to feel a sense of belonging, not fitting in. So I belong, yeah? A lot of the time, people tell themselves, I don't fit in, yeah? I don't fit in. I know I just don't fit in. You don't need to fit in, okay? Never try to fit in, because when you try to fit in, the agenda changes, yeah? I don't fit in. I don't need to fit in. I never fit in. I belong. I belong where I am. I belong with my people. If I feel good, I know I belong. If I don't feel good, I know I don't belong. You don't need to change yourself, because fitting in suggests that you need to do something to alter who you are. Belonging is just a sense of being, yeah? So I belong with my people. And when you worry about what other people think of you, it is, back to when we were tribes people. We need people to survive. So I belong, and when we're manifesting, I belong. If you ever feel like you don't belong, or there's certain people that make you feel bad, restrict your access to them as much as you can, okay? I understand it when they're family and you don't have a choice. I really get that and I respect that. So it might not be that you can completely cut them out or just be like, well, I'm done with that relationship. But restrict their access to you. Do the golden bubble. Imagine that all of their words cannot permeate you. So I said a minute ago I was going to go through a memory thing with you and I didn't. Okay, so let's shut your eyes, okay? Now, the reason you've got to shut your eyes, and when you shut your eyes, okay, you want to be looking straight ahead, 45 degrees up or 25 degrees up even, just a little bit higher than your eye line. So if your eyes were open like that, yeah, but shut your eyes, okay? The reason that you want to look up, okay, is because this puts your brain in a different state. It's called an alpha state, and an alpha state is when your brain waves are basically can access any area of your brain. So it takes a little while to settle into that, but let's keep your eyes shut for a minute. You're going to look up slightly when your eyes are shut, and I want you to think back of your earliest memory of being embarrassed by somebody else or humiliated by someone else or made to feel like you didn't belong because of something you did, said, a mistake, etc. You're not allowed to type, so don't open your eyes and type, yeah, I've got one, but I want you to really think about it. And those of you not closing your eyes, shut your fucking eyes. No, I'm joking. Those of you not closing your eyes, when your eyes are shut, your brain can access these areas, these memories much easier than when your eyes are open, because when your eyes are open, you're processing new information, versus closing them, you can go within, as Deepak would say. So I want you to think of this memory, and me and Sarah were doing this yesterday, but basically you visualise this memory as if you are not in it, but you're watching it either as a bird's eye view or you're standing to the side of the memory and you can see the memory playing out and you can see elements of the memory. And basically, once you've got to that point where you can see or visualise or remember that real strong memory, first of all, you drain it of colour, okay? So if you can't do this right now, if you're sat at your desks or anything, you drain the memory of colour. And so then you've got a black and white image. And you watch it play out, if you can do that. And then once you've got a black and white image, you then drain the black and white, so you've just got the imprint is translucent, so you can just see the outlines of the people in it, nothing more than the outlines, okay? Then once you've got to the point where you've got that, you then begin to shrink the image, and you shrink it and shrink it and shrink it until it's so small, and you shrunk all the edges, pushed it all in together, and then you just flick it away. You may open your eyes to flick, okay? So that's one way of doing it. Now, if you're a visual person, that might really work for you. If you're not a visual person, and sometimes I struggle to access memory, I think that the kindest thing you can do is do your homework and do your self-soothing. Okay, so write that letter, like I was saying about my little sister. Write the letter that child needed to hear. Write it as if you're their most important advocate, like you're the parent of that child. And if you can begin to be kind to your inner child, then when you have these moments of reactivity and you're not quite sure why you behaved like that, that is often when we're very reactive. It's often because our inner child or our inner teenager is so neglected that she's like, you haven't looked after me, nobody stood up for me, nobody helped me out at this time, and she's upset. And if you can learn that technique of self-soothing that teenager, of self-soothing that person that really, really needed that in you, your past version of yourself, then you can break those patterns that you might keep presenting themselves with. I still worry about what people think about me. And worrying about what people think of you, like I said, is normal. Worrying about what people think of you to the point where it stops you pursuing the next thing, the next easiest thing, the next best thing for you, that is when you need to do the work, okay? I'm just going to read your messages. I know it came to me straight away. It was when all the girls in year 8 had Topshop shoes and I had Shoe Zone, and all my friends took the piss out of them. Stupid, really, isn't it? Well, no, it's not stupid, because it would have felt really horrible, and you would have felt like that you would have felt less adequate than them. And I expect that ever since you have felt like you needed to buy stuff and have stuff to, we'll say, fit in. But from now on, when you go back to do your homework, Tate, you want to write to her and say, I'm really sorry that those girls did that to you. That is so irrelevant to the human being that you are, that you're going to be. It's such a non-conversation that as an adult, you know, you are as valuable in the Shoe Zone shoes, or I can't remember if that's what you said, in the Shoe Zone shoes or the Topshop shoes. Your value is not equated to anything like that. You are important, you're amazing, you're bright, you're creative. These are so much more important values than what shop your shoes are from. And write that letter to her like you really love her. Let love pour out of you. Because when we talk about self-love, we don't want self-love to be just a tick box that we're just doing. We want to be living self-love. And when we live self-love, when we live in alignment, when we're like, do you know what? My soul wants me to look after that little girl that was inside of me. And at the time, my soul was looking after her, but my society was not there for my little girl. So now I've got to go back to and be really kind to her. And with being really kind to her, then I'm able to move past this point of my life. Yeah, the book I'm reading now talks all about the inner child and how to look after her, and I think it's such a big thing, and it's so underrated. Being what we do in normal society, and when I say normal, what I mean by that is before you become consciously aware of how you behave. If you don't look after your inner child, what happens is she seeks fulfillment. She seeks what's the word when you affirm? She seeks like validation. That's it. She seeks validation from other people. Okay, if you yourself don't give it to her, she will constantly want other people's opinion. So if you feel like other people's opinions matter more than your own, you have to do this work. You have to do this inner child work, because if you can get to a point where you don't need anyone else's opinion. I bought these shoes because I love them. And if no one else loves them, I don't care, because I love them. I made this wig and I love it so much. And because I love it so much, it's pouring out of me that I love it so much. And other people are like, wow, what you've done is amazing. But it doesn't matter what they think, if they didn't like it or not, because I'm so proud of that. That's where you want to come from. People, you don't want to chase people knocking on their door and I'm going to use this word. Attention seeking. That's not really what I'm trying to say, but it's like we need attention. So we're like, do you like this? Do you like my dress? Do you like my shoes? Do you like what I'm doing? What do you think of this? And I can't make a decision without checking with loads of other people. And what do you think I should do? If you're always looking for other people's opinions over valuing your own, then this is the work that you need to do, okay? Because actually, you know all of the stuff that you need to be doing. And you can't do it all in one go. But if you can tap into every day, what do I need to do in this situation? And you don't need anyone else's approval of that. And you don't need to say, what do you think I should do in this situation, before you've consulted yourself. You might go, I feel like this is my situation and it's very difficult at the moment, and I think that I'm going to do this. And you might need a sounding board, somebody that's going to go, yeah, and how do you think you'll feel if you do that? Yeah, okay. That's very different to asking for an opinion. But yeah, I used to be worried that people would think, a wig business, what the fuck? But now I don't care, I'm proud of my business. Exactly. And there was a time when that might have stopped you from going to the next level, because you would have put their opinion before your own. I know that now, but it doesn't feel like that at the time, does it? What does that mean? I know that now, but it doesn't feel like that at the time. What do you know now? So yeah, start to go within, start to trust your inner voice. And this is the other thing with release. Once you make space for release, and release doesn't just have to be a memory, sometimes release can be a person, okay? If you need to let go of a love, person, an argument that you had with a best friend, somebody that you lost, something that really, really hurt you, what a lot of the time we do is we save space for that person and we give them a lot of our energy. And it might be through anger, it might be through resentment, it might be through sadness, it might be through all of those things. But when we are focusing on a past event that brought us a lot of pain, we're not in alignment, okay? So first of all, your soul has already forgiven that person, okay? When we're talking about forgiveness, and I spoke about this last week, but when we're talking about forgiveness, we're not talking about you writing them a letter and saying, I'm so sorry, or writing them a letter and saying, I accept your apology, let's be friends again. What we're talking about is you allowing what happened with as much kindness and as much love. For if they were being a twat, then they must have been in a bad place. And I'm going to send you loads of love and loads of luck because you fucking need it. That was passive aggressive of me, wasn't it? But I'm going to send you loads of luck and loads of light, even if it is in a passive aggressive way to begin with. And I'll slide along my scale of every day and every way. I'm getting better and better and being truly luck and light. Because when you can accept that this has happened, accept it and move on, then you're not spending half of your energy, 30% of your energy, 10% of your energy, any of your energy on a situation that is no longer your actual reality. So your reality now should not be governed by past negative events, okay? But yeah. Yes. Anyway. So are there any questions around the homework? I'm just going to get it up just in case I've missed in case I need to talk about any points. Okay, so in the homework it says the thing that affects me the most in my day-to-day life, and we've said, there's been a lot of a topic about other people, losing friends, losing like what other people think of us, friendship groups, being part of the group, but this might be also more to do with an ex or something like that. So whatever it is for you, think about what it is for you. Yes, let the comments bounce off. But sometimes when we're fragile, it's not as easy as that. But that's what you want. That's where you want to get to. You want to get to a point where you're so self-soothed that even when the comments come and people are dicks, you're like, I can't fucking hear you in my golden bubble. And you imagine this golden bubble, and you're like, I feel so great about myself that literally nothing could waver that. Even if someone came up to me and told me that I was a C word, I would be like, are you okay? Because I feel great, Right, that's page 1. Okay, so page 1, the thing that affects me most in my day-to-day life is, and then what's the memory behind that? What should have happened, okay? What should have happened in that memory? In Tate's memory, for example, with the shoes, that should just never have happened. That should have been like, oh, your shoes are from Payson, they're really cool. Mine are from Topshop. Oh yeah, they're really cool. End of conversation, What shouldn't have happened was that they were unkind around that. And then what would have been lovely if somebody came in and said, well, her shoes are nicer than yours. I'm sliding over to the other side of things. But somebody came in and stood up for Tate and, said, well, her shoes are amazing and I love them, Or that she said, I love my shoes. Get over it, And that be that. So what should have happened? And then write that letter. If you're angry about this, write a letter to the person's responsible. So if you still feel anger about it, you need to get that out of your body, because again, we're making space, we're clearing energy. If you feel sad about it, anything, write that out. So it might be you're sad, it might be you're angry, whatever it is, get it out of your body, separate it from you, put it on paper. Once it's separate from you, then your brain is not carrying this around like an unprocessed memory that keeps firing up. And what you might find is, like what I said to you with the journaling, when you put your pen to paper, trust, even if you're like, I can't remember anything, start writing. The memory that affects me the most is, and then see what comes out of your pen, okay? The moment in my life that affects me the most is, see what comes out. I think definitely gravity needs to go on our playlist. Defying Gravity, sorry, yes. I had a group of 4 friends from primary to high school, and in the first year they broke up with me. I had the whole of the school with this feeling of choosing other friends who would have me and feeling less than, and that is really sad and really, really hard, isn't it, when that happens? And I think that that's such a defining time of our lives, but also those moments stay with us for years, and and they can affect how we feel around trust and relationships. And the truth is, for you to get to the next level, for you to really grow as a human, you need to be around people. We need people. There is no greater resource on this planet than the relationships that we have with other people. So if you can forge really healthy, strong relationships where, again, you don't fit in, but you feel this sense of belonging, this sense of ease, I can be myself around these people, that's what you're aiming for. So, Michelle, make sure that you go back and you write your little girl. I don't know what year you were in school. The first year, I'm primary to high school. I'm kind of assuming you were really young. But write that little girl a letter and say to her, that should never have happened to you. You're an amazing kid. Those children not wanting to be friends with you was probably something to do with one of the other children having a really hard time and finding you and using you as a scapegoat. Luck and light to that child. That really, really hurt, but that should not have happened to me, yeah? So 11 years old, that's so young, isn't it? And it's so it's such a painful thing at the time. So really write that out with as much compassion as you can. Like, imagine that that's your little girl now, or imagine that that is someone that you really love and you need to protect, and just write from the heart, like, that you know, drown your 11-year-old self in that love and care that you should have had at the time, and affirm her, tell her how amazing she was, tell her how much she makes people laugh, how silly and fun she can be, all of those things, and just really reaffirm your sense of identity with that. So that's so sad, Michelle. You'll feel different when you find your tribe of women. I only just found mine in the last year, but they support me and encourage me. But it doesn't stop me still feeling not enough for other groups of friends. It almost scars you, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. And there's that real thing of keeping up appearances that we still do. And I think I told you last week about my catastrophic London trip, but I knew as soon as I said yes to taking my little girl that I shouldn't have said yes to taking my little girl. When we do stuff out of obligation of that, if I don't do this, I'm going to be pushed out of that group. If I don't see these people, then I'm, that just keeping up appearances for the sake of a friendship that doesn't make you feel good. The more that you do that, the more the universe is going to present you with confirmation that you should not be doing that. You should not be there. So start to listen to that. If your inner guidance is telling you, I'm not really enjoying this company so much as I do with my other friends because this feels prickly and uncomfortable and definitely not easy, then listen to that and start really listening to your intuition, and don't override your intuition by carrying on doing something. The number one cause of anxiety and disease, ill ease in the body, is repeatedly not listening to your intuition, repeatedly doing something that goes against what you actually really, really want to do. Does your soul want to hang around with those people, or does your ego want to hang around with them to keep up appearances? Ask yourself that all the time. What does my soul want me to do? What does my soul want me to do? And trust that. And when it tells you, just listen to it, because the less you listen to it, the more anxiety you'll feel in your body. I'm sorry that you're trying not to cry in the gym. You're allowed to cry. Allow yourself to cry for that little girl, Michelle. Cry really, go crazy on the crying, okay? Permission slip to cry your eyes out so much that you sob and be really dramatic and fall on the treadmill and lie down on the floor, okay? Is there a risk of rejecting everything if you listen all the time? Don't mistake anxiety with intuition, okay? So if you were to listen to your intuition all of the time and always act on your intuition, no, I don't think you would reject everything. I think you might have a transformational few years where you might reject a lot of the old patterns that you'd been doing, but I don't believe that would be a long-term thing, that you would reject things forever, I think that listening to your intuition, like we've talked about in manifesting before, knowing what you don't want is the first step to knowing what you do want. So often, you ask people, well, what do you really want in life? And the first thing they tell you is what they don't want. What they don't realise is that when you talk about what you don't want, you're more likely to manifest what you don't want. So you're talking about it, so you're vibrating at it, so you're manifesting more and more and more of that, yeah? So really, really start thinking, what I don't want is this, okay? If that's where you're at, what I don't want is this, but what I do want, what's the opposite of that? So I don't want to feel financially tied. So what does that say? I want financial freedom. I don't want to feel like I've got no energy anymore. So what do I want to feel? I want to feel like I've got loads of energy. I don't want to feel like I don't have any confidence or self-worth. So I want confidence and self-worth, yeah? So really keep dragging yourself back to what you do want. What do I want? And then when you do that, also get in that alpha state, you know, like when Neo learns Kung Fu. And imagine yourself as that confident person, as that financially free person. And start to, when you do that, right, what you do is essentially, even if it's not here yet, even if it hasn't arrived, if you can imagine yourself as being that already, you're creating the neural pathway as if you are that already. And if you can create the neural pathway as if you are that already, then you will begin to behave as if you are that already. Does that make sense? So you imagining it is not a waste of time. It's not being silly. It's not a frivolous, trivial part of manifesting. It is the most important part of manifesting, because if you can't imagine it first, you can't do it. You need to be able to imagine it first, create the neural pathway for it, and then when your brain has a choice between, do I go back to my old ways of being not confident, or do I pick this new path? Because the new pathway is already forged for it, it has a choice. Whereas before, if you've never imagined that before, it will always loop back to the old one. It will not create a new neural pathway magically in that moment where you need to pick a behaviour. So say I said to you, Tate, fancy getting in the sea naked. If you've never imagined yourself getting in the sea naked, or you've never imagined yourself being spontaneous, you're more likely to say no to that situation than yes to that situation. So imagine it first, and then your brain has an option when it comes to sending something down that neural pathway. Does that make sense? I had exactly the same experience. It was horrible time, and I used to let people control me in the fear that they wouldn't be my friend. And that's it. We end up bending ourselves, and then we're not true to ourselves, and then it's a whole different situation. But anyway, I feel like I've talked too much today. But please remember, imagine it first. Imagine yourself first. Use your imagination. Your imagination is your biggest tool. It's something that we lose in school. It's something that we, oh, she's always daydreaming. Sorry, I've got one little spiky bit of my eyebrow. I feel like I could twiddle it, like Dali. But imagine, your imagination is essential for you creating those neural pathways, so it's easy for you to take the action when presented with the opportunity that the universe sends you. Okay, if you haven't imagined it first, your brain can't physically do it unless it's like you've taken some kind of drugs to get you to some state, or you've done a load of cacao or something that's really like, okay, I'm going to do it. Like, you have to have imagined it first, all right? Imagine it first. Use your imagination. Promise me you'll use your imagination, okay? And it's never a waste of time. Imagining that it's already happened is such a key part of manifesting, okay? And you don't need to worry about how, okay? That's not the point. You just need the neural pathway there, ready for it when it happens, okay? The how will sort itself out. Just imagine it. Can you promise me that? Can you promise me? Okay, I've talked too much, haven't I? Anyway, I hope that helped. This week, what do we want to manifest? Because I realised we didn't actually decide on something that we were manifesting. It's such an important part. We've seen lots of ladybirds this week, which is a little bit early for the older ladies. So what should we manifest? A specific thing. Do you know what? I didn't think I needed to release anything, but clearly I do. We all do, and don't feel like bad about that. I do. So do you want me to tell you my release story? So I kept saying that I'm a bit annoying. So it was me and my sister growing up. She was younger than me. And my older cousin. So when we were together, it was a bit like I was the middle child. So I had a bit of middle child syndrome, in that my older cousin, she's an anaesthetist, which is as high up as you can get as a doctor. She is very, very smart, speaks French, really good girl, you know, she would always do as she was told. My little sister was so cute, like the cutest thing you've ever seen. Like Theo, but a girl. And I was doing a meditation thing with Carrie, and she said, go back to a time when you felt like you couldn't be yourself, and when you felt like you got kind of not punished for being yourself, but that you felt like real, you know, that you didn't fit in. And I was around my uncle Nigel's, the demon Nigel, and I was being naughty, and I wasn't really a naughty kid, but because he didn't particularly like me, that's probably not fair, because he found me irritating. And again, I probably triggered him, and here's where the kindness needs to come in. I probably triggered him because he saw something in me that he didn't like in himself, or he saw a behaviour in me that he felt like he hadn't been able to do as a child. He was the eldest as well. So he might have just found me triggering because I was a little firecracker. But anyway, I got really told off. It was just the stupidest thing. And just a bit like Tate said, oh, you know, it's really silly, isn't it? He had a loft hatch and I was bored. And I was bored because I'd gone upstairs because I didn't feel comfortable in his presence. Kids know when people don't like them. They're much more likely to play up. Anyway, so there's me trying to open this loft hatch, which is a naughty thing to do. But I got so told off. And it was like the first time when I really, really realised that somebody didn't like me. Like, it was my first memory of feeling like, wow, when I'm around them, I'm not myself, and I can't be myself, and therefore I'm not myself. So I'll do something that, I don't know. So, when I was talking about it, I was just crying, and it's such a trivial thing, you know, it's so silly, but it's not silly because it is my first memory of not being who I really am. So what needed to happen in that situation was, in an ideal world, my uncle would have actually just liked me and allowed me to be myself, and then I wouldn't have gone off and started being naughty because I was bored, because, you know, probably everyone was just being like, oh, your sister's so cute. But anyway, this is how I've grown my confidence. I keep imagining walking into a room and my smoke's everywhere. It works. Exactly, it does. You have to imagine it. Imagine that you can. Imagine that it's already happening. Imagine it as if it's already here. Then when the situation arises and somebody says, Lou, do you fancy going out for a drink? And you'll be like, hell yeah. Whereas before you might have shrunk or been like, ooh, you know? You were literally thinking about a shell. Okay, yeah, let's manifest a shell. Oh, I love shells as well. Okay, cool. Right. So I'll stop talking now. Let's manifest a shell. And thank you so much for joining. Do your homework, please. But like I said, if you don't, this is here for you. You can come back to it another time. You can come back to this week at another time. I really recommend that you do release. The reason that I recommend you do release is because then you create space, head space, heart space for moving on to the next thing, okay? And that's what we're always trying to do, release. And it is full moon, okay? When is it full moon? Tomorrow, the next day, Thursday, is it? So do it before Thursday, do it before full moon. Once you've written it, you can burn that piece of paper if you've printed out your workbook, burn the thingy, let it go. And that's the same as kind of that visualization that we were talking about, that shrinking the memory, flicking it off. It's the same, writing it down, put it in a river, make a little boat of it, watch it go away so it shrinks, or burn it and literally see, I've taken this memory out of my body and I've soothed the anger side of things and I've soothed my inner child. And by doing that, I'm strengthening my own connection with my own innate wisdom. Okay. Anyway, right. I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much. And should we take a screenshot? I should try and, shouldn't I? Let it go. Oh, do you want to see around the villa? I should have pulled a nice face. I was doing this. Would you like to see around the villa quick? I should probably consent. I should probably get some consent. I'm not going to take my... Oh my God, I've been doing this for 49 minutes. I'm so sorry. End stream. That was long, wasn't it? I'm so sorry. No one's ever going to watch that back. So long term as well, I'll be taking the audios off of these, so you'll be able to listen to them as a podcast as well. So like if you're going for a walk, you know, and you haven't watched the live, you can always catch up with the audio. And oh yeah, I was talking to Claire the other day about planning our first mixer. So I was thinking because we're going to do them every 6 months, I was thinking that we do the first one like 3 months into the patronage, and then we do the next one 6 months after that. So I was thinking, like, where are we now? March, April, May, June. How does that sound? Oh, we could. Oh, I've got a really good idea actually. Let me think about this first. I'm going to come back to you on that. I've just had a little brainwave, but I need to check that I can do that before I say it. Okay, right. I'm just going to... Right, I've ended it on there. I'll just give you a little tour round. Well, I'm not showing you my bedroom. This is my bathroom. Luke and Albert said this looks like a chocolate coin. I watched the sunrise this morning. This is Sarah's room. I'm probably not allowed in here. Shouldn't really be sneaking around in other people's bedrooms. Can't open the door. Oh, there we go. I'll take you downstairs and then I'll sign off, okay? It's chilly. Look at these stairs. We were saying like we wouldn't be allowed them because of building regs, but how lovely. How lush is that? Right, I'm going to go now, but thank you so much and have a lovely day.